Are you an ambitious leader ready to break through limiting beliefs, align with your purpose, and thrive in your career without sacrificing your well-being or postponing your true desires? I'm Diana Ordonez, certified high-performance coach and your host. Each week, we'll dive into actionable insights and research-based strategies to help you unlock clarity, build unshakable confidence, and take courageous action toward a life of impact and fulfillment. If you're ready to overcome fear, embrace growth, and step boldly into your next level, you're in the right place. Let's create a life filled with courage and purpose together. Hello, everybody. Today I am here with Lisa Perez. With the new last name,
Everyone does that.
Tripped over my words there for a second. And Lisa Perez is from Spa on the Go, and she also has her own training institute called the School of Synergy, and this is new for me. So
Spa School of Synergy.
Yes. So Lisa has so many incredible insights around entrepreneurship and building a business and just going on a personal development journey. And I can't wait to hear from you and all the ways that it's helped to, bring you where you are today, leading different teams as you built your business, as well as leading new business owners and new massage therapists in this industry. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what School of Synergy is and how it came to be and your background at Spa on the Go?
Yeah, so basically, thank you for having me. And basically that came about from having a business for 18 years now, which is crazy to say. And that's, like closing one, opening one, leaving a partnership. It's not just one straight for 18 years, but it's been a lot of transitions throughout the 18 years. And one thing I noticed is that my generosity has always gotten me in trouble because I never knew how to balance it. And what happened there is like, I was like, yes, come on, I know what it is to struggle. I know what it is to work hard. So when I would take on therapists, like I took them on like they were my family. But, like all of us and many of us out here, it's like, you get burned by so many people, especially employers. So like the last thing people think is to trust. And I felt like I found myself overly training to make sure, like, especially in the Latino, Black and Brown community, I felt like it was my obligation to be like, no, this is how we need to represent ourselves. This is how you do this. And I just felt like I was going beyond just the technical skill of massage therapy because I wanted greatness, not even away from here. And I would even tell staff once I hired them, if you're only here for 6 months, 12 months, let me know, because let's make that the best 12 months. Don't leave me high and dry, but that comes with experience. So what I noticed was that it was like a cycle, 18 years, right? It's like, all right, every 2 years, 3 years, someone's leaving, someone's going here. They go to corporate because they have benefits. I'm a small business. So at the end of the day, good. Yes, go get your health benefits. And I don't have control over that. But I felt like, man, I just keep having to do this over and over again. And as a small business owner, you're growing, but then it's like, oh, great, I got to start from experience again. So it took me a long time to figure that out because, again, my generosity was in the way of the business. It's like it had to be kind of the other way around. Like, let me structure this and then be generous. You know what I mean? It was like opposite. And that comes from the culture, right? Like we're here to give and give and give. And then it's like, wait a second, you're running a business. Again, it's like a minute. So the Spa School of Synergy came from that. It's like, wait, I'm tired of training you and leaving. How about you pay me now and I train you this way and then do whatever you want to do, like how you want to do it in the way that you want to, the reason you went to school. And it's just coaching in a different way. And again, it's not just the skill set of massage or skincare, like doing a facial. It's like beyond it. And I will be promoting. I have a workshop for spa professionals in February. So I can't wait. And that will be the first course that I launch live, not just virtual. And it's because you notice, like, for me, it's like, hey, how did you not know to put the bolster underneath the sheet? Like, it's cross-contamination. It's cold for the client. Like, it's an experience for everyone and safety. So it's like those little details that go such a long way. And I felt like I was kind of giving them all the goods to leave me and get better, which is good. But that's when I was like, that's why I love to teach. I love to inspire. So it's like, let me create this course because that's what I really like to do. So that's where it really came from all that trial and error of running a business, having to stay afloat, meeting quotas, but then training everyone and being taken for granted. I mean, it was a real thing. Um, yeah, and that's where it came from. Now it's like, let me learn from that and then let me give. And then people are like, hey, I need to sign up. I want to sign up because they want it. They see the experience, they see the passion. And I'm like, wow, I could have done this so long ago. But, that's how you live and learn.
So I heard a few themes there, right? One of the things that I often discuss when we talk about leadership is that heart to serve, right? That servant leadership, how, we bring people on our teams and we think that they're there to serve us, and the servant leader serves their employees, like they become an active part of their development. They want them to feel good in their jobs. They take that, when you say family, I think of compassion and empathy, right? And so, tell me about how you saw the need to make sure that the industry was influenced in that way.
It really stood out by seeing like our community, like our Black and Brown community, like really stepping into this world. Because when I started this in the beauty and wellness industry, there wasn't a lot of Black and Brown in this space. I just grew up in the beauty industry, so I was in it. I was born into it with my mom, but seeing like, wow, I started going to trade shows and doing these things. I was the only one. I was hired because I was bilingual. And so I thought like they were doing me a favor, but no, it was the other way around. Like, you know what I mean? So after a while, like when I would be demoing and doing it in English and then doing the translation in Spanish, demoing everything, like you see these crowds of like, oh my God, they speak Spanish. And I'm like, oh my gosh, our community is like has a lack of education. And that sucks because we're such hardworking people. Not that no one else is, but you know what I mean? Like the culture. And if you already feel like you're in the back burner of like, I don't know the language, you don't feel secure. Like I grew up with that. I was the firstborn generation here and I spoke English after third grade. So it's like even me being born in this country, I only spoke Spanish. So I like have so much empathy towards everyone who's like, I'm like, yeah, yeah, come. I'm gonna do the demo in Spanish now. So it stood from that, and that was just a goal of mine. I was like, okay, how do I educate these, our people to like know they could be here, they could do the same thing, and that's really where the heart came from. And again, you just didn't see it back then. So now it's like, hey, no, like as simple as you don't just leave a job. Like that's not stuff that they're taught. It's like, how do you like not burn a bridge? Do the next time. Like they would do this directly to me because sometimes I think it was more like, oh, is she the big sister or cousin? Or, they could see me as family and just be like, oh, hey, I got a job, gotta go. And it's like, wow. I said, hey, listen, by all means, like, please do whatever works for you. But for future, this is how you don't burn a bridge. And this is X, Y, and Z and how and why. Because for future now, I don't trust you. And I would make sure that if someone calls for a recommendation, I will be like, they're great at their skills, they're punctual, but they didn't give me a 2 weeks notice. And I will let that know. And I would tell them this. I said, so be prepared if you do put me in the recommendation that I will let them know that you did not give me 2 weeks because this is still a business. And that was me like being a little bit like tough love, but also like, where's the respect? And also maybe they don't know that it's a respect thing. They probably don't know that they should do a 2 weeks notice. So all of this started to happen. And I'm like, I guess this is what I have to do to like, hey, once you go to the next place, remember to do this, remember to try this, and then do this. And so I don't know, I just kept seeing this throughout the years where it was like, okay, I need to now really step in and educate our community in a way that we work so hard and we work like amazing. So like now how do we do that with inner work, like of consideration and professionalism? Like that's just as important. So for me, like just showing that professionalism of like work ethic, not just by the skill, but also from an ethics point was so important to me because I feel like we were, and I say this because my family, they all came from Dominican Republic and they were never they never experienced that. They never experienced that real ethic professionalism in the sense that I had experienced it. So it was like I felt like an obligation to like help our community understand that you're not just you because of your skill and how great you are and how you work like a bull. That doesn't make you great. And I was like very passionate about that. It was like beyond that. And it's still in me. It's like, no, no, you don't have to work yourself to the bone just because you don't speak English, because it's like you're proving yourself and I have to do more. And it's like, no. So it's just, I don't know. It's just in me to provide that because it's important for our community. It's like a real big passion of mine to make sure that I provide that education for them.
So what I love about what you said is understanding our value, like being aware of our value to see that a group of people aren't being represented, and rather than look at it from a place of judgment about why they're not represented, to empower them with the skills that they need in order to make sure that they are valued and seen. And I like what I heard is, hey, there are this group of people that don't have the awareness, the knowledge, and education, and they think that their skills are just what they do, rather than understanding that it's also how you show up and who you are, like how you're being in different professional environments, and to want and have the heart to equip them with those tools so that they go on and be successful. And I also heard you say, it's so much about the soft skills, right? And a lot of times employers, there's this like belief that you set the expectation, if they don't meet it, then they're gone. And it's like, okay, how much of that is coming from a place of judgment, right? Versus I'm going to give feedback, right? I'm going to give feedback and I'm going to empower that person to do the right thing, to have a heart to be a mentor, right? Not to just be like the do as I say person. And it sounds like what you learned is that there's a whole group of people that were doing good work, and then they were just kind of getting in their own way, and because of perspective. And so working on mindset became a really big thing that you worked with your clients on. And you said that there's an opportunity to do that in a more empowering way than while, you're trying to manage your staff, right? It sounds like you could impact more people.
You can, and a lot of times it's like, hey, this is expectation and do it. And it's like, no, some people are not there. Some people didn't learn the way you learn. And that's why corporate is hard for me to get, because here's your expectation. You don't do it, you get fired. So then people work out of fear. And I was like, no, 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 I'm sorry. Like when I would see like new staff come in, I would be like, hey, what's going on? You seem nervous. You seem like, oh, because, oh my God, I don't know if I got it. Okay. So if you don't have it today, that's what practice is for. And that's why we're still training and just being honest. But like, I noticed that sometimes, the scarcity is because of that expectation and not being open and vulnerable of like, hey, it's okay. Trust me. When I first started, like I was a mess, and like letting them know like, okay, this is years of experience. That's why it looks quote unquote so flawless. Right. But it's like, no, like, you're learn to make the mistake. That's how you're going to learn. That's how you're going to become great. But I'm not saying all corporations are a mess. I just personally love small business mentality because you choose the direction, not a timeline or a time frame of this is this and this is that. Like, structure is great. I think it's amazing. But sometimes I just don't see the empathy in big, huge corporations a lot. And that's when you see people coming in and in that mindset. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, let's reel it back, because that's not how we don't work like this here. Here, it's going to take us a little bit longer, but that's why people come back, because they see the true passion through your skill and you with your personality. So it's a lot more work from a small business standpoint, but I prefer that than just being mediocre and like cookie cutter small business, because I don't have the patience for like playing it safe. I go beyond it, and it's okay if it requires a little bit more work as a small business owner, because that does tap into your day, a lot as a small business owner, because you don't have all the different categories of people, trainer manager or this manager, you don't have that, right? But it's like, you know what, it's okay. And if people stick it out, like then it'll be great, and the time will come and there'll be nice flow, all of that. But yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And it just depends what your intentions are when you first open a small business, and what you really want. Like, is it just money? Is it just time freedom? Or is it all of them? For me, I'm here to serve. I remember when I think it was 18, I keep telling this to my husband, I have to find that letter I wrote in high school. I wrote, I wanted to be Mother Teresa. Like, I want to just give and serve. That's why I always say my generosity gets me in trouble with myself, because sometimes I'm too exhausted or too tired, even though not as much as before, because before it was just give, 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 give. Now it's like, oh, wait, I'm giving too much. Let me roll it back, because I have to pour it to myself. I mean, it's a must. It's a must.
Mhm.
Um, but it's just serving to me is like the most like fulfilling thing in my life. Like, I love to give. I don't know. It's like the best thing in life. I just happen to
Yeah.
be in business, so I have to balance it out. But the serving is there.
Yes. And I love what you said, because this is another thing that I also feel very passionately about is leadership is the number one skill for a leader is to be empathetic, right? To be able to ask yourself, what is this person's experience, right? To be able to be vulnerable enough to share your own experience to build trust and honesty with your team rather than that fear-based leadership, right? It's so like, it's a different
Crazy.
perspective, right? And the thing is, unfortunately, this is where sometimes um there's there's something missing in leadership training, and that's there's a reason that you want to lead from a place of fear, right? And that's where sometimes a lot of leaders are walking around with wounds that they don't even know they have, right? And I know you've experienced a lot in your life where in your journey where you realize, oh, I'm not, placing value. Like you had your own awareness of what your wounds were and how it affected your leadership and how you showed up in your business. And things like coming from a place of fear-based leadership is also a reflection of people's unresolved wounds. And maybe you could talk a little bit about how the journey into having the awareness of your patterns and where they came from and how it affected your business could be helpful for someone that is, not necessarily in touch with that or don't even know how to get awareness around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint like where when you're going to catch that awareness, right? Because it depends what people are going through and stuff like that. But I know through my journey in the beginning of my business, and my self exploration and my journey, it was like really rough. It was I had so many wounds that I didn't even know I had to heal, just in general, like anger management. I had a lot of anger issues, and I remember my first business. I mean, I was in my 20s. I didn't work through anything. So it was like a bomb ready to explode all the time.
Yeah.
Even though I was always serving and giving, that was kind of like my healing space of like, I need to heal. I'm healing people. And it actually healed me, thank God, little by little. Um, but then I would get real snappy, like, well, what do you mean? And then this and that. And I'm like, oh wow, like thinking back, I'm like, holy shit, like I I that was me talking to myself, and that's what I realized. Because I opened the business, I became a new mom, like it was just like it was a lot. My things always happen in like bunches, like all at the same time, just take, and which I guess the majority of us, that is what happens. So it's like when it rains, it pours kind of thing. Um, but I just remember like I didn't know how to work through the pains and the struggles and the challenges. I just did what I knew to do, which was clap back and argue back and be real defensive. Like I was how I was raised. So how how am I supposed to be otherwise without getting that information, getting that knowledge. So as time passed, I remember it just didn't feel right to me. I'm like, damn, that was kind of mean. Like, why did I say that? Like, oh, well, why didn't you do that? But I said it with an attitude. Or, and again, this is like, oh my God, years ago, like over 15 years ago. But I would still be like, hey, sorry about that. Even though I said my apology with an attitude, I still would feel like, damn, I came off really kind of like rude. But I would still apologize, still defensive, because I had a
Right.
lot of ego and pride to work through.
Yeah.
But working through that, I remember like, what's wrong? Like, how am I so like I shouldn't do that? And I would like
You
tell
don't
myself,
want to, right? It's like
yeah.
the difference between I shouldn't be doing these things, that's shame, versus like I don't want to do these things anymore.
And then that awareness of like, I don't want to do this, it was kind of like, well, the partner that was with me right there, I was being resentful towards that person, taking it out on this person, and even taking it out on myself. And then I would overwork, burn myself out to forget it. So it's like this whole pattern, right, of like these bad habits, to try to get away from it. Like, okay, I confronted it, now I'm done. Now let me keep suppressing. So I was like, after a while, I was like, I can't live like this. I'm too exhausted, like mentally, physically, spiritually. And then that's when one of my, real like pivotal empowerment moments was when I was introduced to a retreat. And it was just like the best experience of my life. And that's where I learned what silence was and what taking care of you was. And I don't need to just overwork to prove myself. I was just exhausted and burnt out. So I was just snapping at everyone. And then when it was time to service in my business, it was like a whole different person, blinders on, ready to do. But then I would get home and be sad because it's like, well, what am I doing? But that was just from pain, pain and not knowing how to handle it. So once I went to that retreat, it was very empowering because it was the first time I ate in silence. And, I grew up in a big family. Like there was like 7 people living in my household when I lived at home. I mean, I moved out in my late teens, but I never had silence. So that retreat was like, I just need clarity. I just need silence to be with myself and it'd be okay. So that was like a really powerful moment from a self standpoint of like, I need to bring this into my business and I'm in the service of wellness, even though like I took care of the client really well, but then I wouldn't take care of myself. And it was like, damn, not good. So I started doing that work after that retreat. And it was after learning what solitude and stillness was. And it was just the most beautiful experience, like of my life. It really was. And from that point on, I was like, okay, what is self work? What is personal development? I didn't know what any of that was until I started, you start attracting that now. I was like, holy shit, I'm messed up. Like I am hurt, I am drained, I am burnt out. I'm more than this. And that's why I'm so passionate when I see that in other people, like working. It's like, hey, let's wheel this back, because I understand it. And it comes from a place of not feeling worthy. So, and having insecurities. So it was like, oh, no. We are all worthy and we're going to work on this. You're not just going to work on a person. So that's why to me it's so passionate. I'm so passionate about that because being in that place of hurt and pain is like, no, we don't have to live in that pain that long. Like you could suffer as part of the life experience, but getting out of that quicker. So that's why it's like a huge thing for me to like bring on people who are like ready for that and just ask them like, how are we doing today for real?
Yeah,
you had a guest, and that was it. So that's kind of like that retreat was very pivotal for me to bring that into my business and lead from heart, to be honest, not just from numbers. I feel like numbers are important when you have a business, but it's also like, where's the heart? Where's the people? I just feel like the energy you give, and I always just get it back. I'm always like the abundance of just giving in that way always brings the energy for good business profits. I don't know. It's just like a good exchange.
Yes, I love that. And what I sometimes have a hard time like shedding the light on for people is, hey, what are you running from? Like, what feelings are you avoiding when you do these things? Because you're not, I'm sure you didn't say I'm in so much pain, but I'm going to keep going anyway. You weren't even aware that you were in pain. You just thought you were doing, the right thing by, if I would just work more or do more for other people, it could like make me feel better. But it's because you were like avoiding the pain that you weren't wanting to feel by working more and getting distracted and creating noise, continuing the cycle of being in survival mode, which obviously is not a good place to try to do some rational thinking, right?
Yep.
So yeah, and it's crazy because I've not even been aware of how our upbringing actually teaches us to avoid certain negative feelings, and that not processing those feelings mean that now I'm gonna have these like buffering mechanisms, like overworking, or it could be eating, or it could be like anything to shut it off, right? Like it could be scrolling on social media, it could be any kind of thing that will alleviate having to feel.
Absolutely.
And
Mine was overworking and drinking on the weekends like crazy to like just bang out, like done.
oh,
It's
yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
And, like just even dissociating when you talk about like having a quiet lunch, it's
Oh my
like how many of us are like walking around just completely dissociating because we don't want to be present in our lives. We don't want to feel the pain of all the things that we're avoiding. And so we just like, you could be at the beach for an hour doing self-care, but not present there at all.
Exactly. Exactly. It's you, not it's not so I mean the environment is important, but it's like it's you that decides what peace or chaos in the space that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. I also hear you saying like setting an intention, right? You just like, I'm going to serve and I'm going to give with abundance and this is how I'm going to be, as opposed to like, this is what I'm going to do. It's like shifting from how am I going to do more, 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 more to this is who I want to be, right?
Absolutely. Because sometimes you think, okay, I want to open a business or I have a business and I need more profits. This is slow, but it's like, well, I need now. Again, this took me years to get here. It's like, no, that I don't need to pour into what other strategy I need to do. No, my strategy now, because it's intentional, is no, I'm going to do what I love first, which is connect with people, service people, educate people, and inspire people, and then the strategy will come to me. I just do it opposite now because it's my way. You don't tell me as a business owner how I do my business. You just don't. My business would not be this successful if I did. I kept every time I would go back to that way. Oh, it has to be this, and the client. What is it called? Oh my God, I forgot the word. The client retention and this. Yes, that's all important. But what's important to me is how I serve first. It's just, I don't know. It's very like it seems backwards in business, but it's not. It just works. It works for me. It works for my business. And now doing the personal work, like the interpersonal work, I know, like God, the universe, the higher, whatever it is that everyone, I know it's going to be like in a different light now. Because if I did it that way, like being the way it was, it's like I could only imagine now,
Yeah.
You have to
Like,
believe me. Like,
well, what I hear is you're being purpose driven as opposed to profits driven, right?
because
Yeah.
it's very easy, it is to just forget because that's the goal. The intention is
Right.
profit. So yes, once you focus on that, that's what you're going to get. But you're going to get a lot of destruction on the other side too, because you're not caring about the people. You're not, you know what I mean? It's like anything in life, like your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your partner. If you're like focused on this is how it has to get done, other things are going to fail. And then you got to pick them up. So it's a really what is that? Fine dance? I don't know, whatever the word is to
Yeah.
say. What is the phrase? The sense
Uh, it's I know what you're talking about.
I always forget phrases, but it's like a light, fine dance where it's like you have to balance it. Where it's like, okay, purpose driven, and then profits will come. That works for me. And
Yeah.
then, or if you're just gonna focus on the profits, oh, trust me, you're gonna get them. Like you are because you're being intentional about what you want, and everyone knows what they want. That's the thing. So it's like be specific about how you want it, but do you then are you going to fight with your partner, your kids, and
Right.
coworkers, the process, or are
What are
you
you
going to
willing to sacrifice?
yeah, or are you going to level it where it's like it's going to be a little work to find balance for everyone because it's a universe, we're all involved, right? Um, it's a fine dance. I'm telling you, you have to figure out if it's like, boom, I got my goal, but now I got to work on all this shit I sacrificed, or how are you going to balance that? And it
So what
takes
I hear, yeah, I actually just posted about this yesterday, is like fulfillment, right?
Mhm.
It's not about the achievement.
It
It's
is.
like on the other side of that, are you going to be fulfilled? And if you're not purpose centered, you won't. Like you will be burnt out. You will be, you know, playing repair, man around.
And you're going to be happy and you're going to be resentful and you're going to be pissed off and you're going to be moody. Like that's a real thing. It's a
Yeah.
real
Well, when you talk about the resentful, moody, like I remember when I was so burnt out that I was like, need to spend more time with my daughter, need to spend more time with my daughter. Spend the time with my daughter. I can't even listen to her. I'm thinking about work. I can't have the patience that I want to have. I can't like so it's like, okay, are you really doing the things because you want to or because you feel that you need to? And are you actually doing it from a place where you're not in survival mode, but you're actually taking care of your needs so that you can show up for people, right?
yeah,
It's like
because
being there doesn't mean you're actually there.
exactly. Because like you're there with your daughter, you feel like I need to spend more time with her. I want to spend more time with her. But at the same time, in that moment that you're feeling that, you actually need time for yourself to regroup and recharge because then you're like, oh, then you get kind of frustrated because you're catering to, in this example, your daughter. She wants you to watch this thing with her. She wants to tell you this whole story. And you're like, oh my God. Like you need time for you first, you need the recharge, you need that rest to then be like, hey, today I'm going to rest. And then tomorrow, you and we're gonna, you know what I mean? It's just really prioritizing that. And trust me, I have an 18-year-old son, so I did not do those things with him. I mean, I did to a certain degree, but now it's more intentional. And obviously, I've grown. I mean, I was like in my early 20s when I had him. So it's like, with the second child, it's like anything, right? Like your second relationship, second home, second car, like you learn the things that you need to. So it's like now it's like, oh, hold on. I know you're excited. You see that I'm off, but right now I need to do this, this, and this. Like that communication of like, and they're not happy. You're gonna get an attitude. You're gonna be, that's sacrificing for your needs. And it's like, hey, right now I don't have the space for that. But later and tomorrow, oh, trust me, it's all you. And it's like being clear with your parents, your mate, your kids. Listen, it's not a game. It's exhausting, but it's so important because you will be resentful if you don't do that.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's a huge thing.
it's setting loving boundaries. Like, hey, you're really important to me and I want to do this with you. I just need to do it once that I can be fully present so that you can get my full attention and all the energy that I want to give to you. And right now, I just don't have the space and the energy. And I would hate for it to not be quality time with you.
I know.
It's like it's hard to set the boundary, but if you can do it from a loving place, it's so different from you keep giving, giving, giving. And then when you want to set the boundary, you're so resentful and overwhelmed that you're like, can I just have a minute? You know what I mean? Like it's that blowing up. thing because you can only not speak your truth for so long,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. And also, like, if you set the boundaries too late, then they're used to that behavior and then they're upset with you because now it's changing. You know, it's like, it's a lot. It's a lot of, because you can't
And
just
that
have to go
happens
about
at
your,
work too.
yeah, that exactly.
You
So
set
it,
expectations.
exactly the expectations. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
also,
part of, like, it's part of the human experience to create boundaries, sacrifice, do a little more work to get the things you need for your soul. It's just part of it, you know?
yeah. And you know, when you talk about relationships with your kids and relationship with your spouse, I know that you relationship with the people that work for you. I know what like what an influence it's been on you to have these communities. I know you have hosted and attended different networking events. Talk about the importance of who you surround yourself with, right?
Oh, God, Jesus, that is like, you know, you try to have this loyalty to the people you grew up with, your family, like this loyalty thing, you know? And it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, no, it's not like that doesn't work for me. It's just really, again, it's just really intentionality. Like you have to be so intentional with your life and how you want it. And it's not going to be cute for your family and friends that you grew up with. It's not. Listen, right now, this season of my life, like even my own, I want to say my own mother is like, seems resentful of me because it's like, no, my boundaries, this is it. I have, the older your children get, in my case, I have two, the more complex it is, the more successful my business, the changes. My business shifted a year and a half ago, so it's more complex. I just got into a marriage, like, you know, got married, and it's finally from being intentional to meeting the right person that works for me, my lifestyle. That's a whole new adjustment to my life. So I feel like, yeah, you're even like sometimes with my own mom, it's like I can't do this right now. Like I can't pick up that call. I'll text her, be like, hey, I'll call you back later. That's a problem because they're so used to getting on that phone and like you're available and hey, I gotta go. And then it's like, no, this is my boundaries. Friends, like, hey, let's hang out. It's like, well, like I have a marriage now and I have kids and I have these things. And most importantly, I have my sanity. I need to regroup. Like I have a little time right now. That doesn't mean I'm going to go have dinner with you and hear all your problems and hear my problem. And it's like, no, that's not the space. So it's like being so strategic because I find in the last, I'm telling you, leaving the business a year and a half ago, getting married a year ago, going through huge transition with my oldest, like a lot of challenging things happening with him. It's just like, whoa, what the heck? But that's when it's like, oh, this is what that work was, that personal development, that now really putting this into practice on a
Hmm.
different level.
Hmm.
Because now it's, I can't be in that space. A lot of my close friends are like, oh my God, you changed so much. You don't even want to drink that much. I'm like, heck no. Because I want to run tomorrow morning and I want to, you know, I need to be present for my kids' meeting tomorrow. I need to be present for myself. Oh my goodness. And it's like, they get mad because
Hmm.
again, oh, where they're at, where's their growth journey, where, you know, like this is what we did together all the time. The same thing with I'm using my mom as an example, as the most recent thing. Like she sees the shift and it's like, hey, this is my schedule. I have my routine in the morning now and this is, it's like really important to me, but there's like resent over it, but it's like I can't take that on. Do some work. You know what I mean? So even your closest people, just like your parent or your mate, sometimes it's like, hey, like this is the new thing that's going on. Please respect it. Like you're here. Let me be in contact with you. But it's like, come on. You know, with our wedding, it was the perfect example. I haven't spent time with a lot of my aunts for years, haven't even been in contact with them. And one of them called me in the middle of the wedding planning and was like, oh, I cannot believe you didn't invite me. That's so disrespectful. And it's like, I just listened to her. Wasn't mad at her. Wasn't going to snap back at her. I'm not there anymore. You're mad. I don't know for what reason. We haven't talked in years. You haven't
Right.
even called me for my kid's birthday. You want me to invite you to the wedding? Our wedding was intentional. 6 months was the max. If we haven't spoken in 6 months, you're not invited. That's why our wedding was small. So it's like those were intentional things because only again, only because you expect me to be loyal because you're blood doesn't mean that that's how I want to live my life. So it's like you have to choose like your heart. Do it because that's what it's expected in a family of loyalty, or is it I'm going to go with what I feel and what I believe in? And that's what it is. And if you're not going to like me, that's okay because that's me. It's a me thing and that's a you thing. And that's okay, but it's being really okay with that. And I am because I feel like it disrupts my living, my lifestyle right now. And if you don't understand it, I can't sit here and explain it every time something shifts for me. Can't. I did that already. I did that for years. And then you're alone and no one's calling you saying, hey, you haven't, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, but when I was in the dumps, no one has called. When you knew I was struggling, when you knew I was not being my true self, no one, but now that I'm successful, I look happier. That's a resentful thing. And that's very real. People get jealous, people get envious. And jealousy is not just, oh, I can't believe it. Sometimes they're happy for you. It's just like, how do I do that? How do I choose my happy? It's probably not a relationship. It's just, how do I leave my job? How do I break up with a friend? You know what I mean? That's jealousy. Like, damn, this person looks so happy. It doesn't mean because they see you with a new partner that they're jealous of your partnership in that relationship. It's whatever it is that they're lacking that they need to let go of, that they're jealous of. You know what I mean? And you just have to know to disconnect and be like, you got to do some work, boo boo. Like, it's not easy to do work out here. It's not an easy thing, but it's necessary because then you'll go years of that energy of not doing anything and have the constant result of misery and pain and suffering instead of how do I pick it up through the pain and suffering and push up. So that energy of all this time, because the time is there, time is, you decide. And the environment for me, it's like if we're not speaking the same language, like on growth and vulnerability, and hey, last week was a bad week and it was because X, Y, and Z, and moving past that. I'm not going to sit here and dwell on an hour conversation about why my challenge was so challenging for me. It's like, hey, this is what happens to me and this sucks. Like, have you experienced something like this? Just maybe to kind of hear a little, sounding board, but it has to be the right people. And for me, networking events are great because we are on the same page. We do feel those things about like our families and, oh, you're always at work, or it's like, no, this is part of my job. You know, I just love being around like-minded people. And even though we're not exactly alike, we're still going through the same things, right? Like we want something greater. We want something purposeful. We want something fulfilling, no matter what those industries are when you're networking. And then those people become family, like as far as colleagues, business, like family, colleagues, family, like it's all different categories. And you have to know how to balance that out. But networking and also like family and friends that I choose are super important because it's a lifestyle. I'm not going to go hang out with my friends that are just still drinking and partying. I just can't do it. Like I don't have the energy physically or mentally to do that. Now, if you want to come over, have a mocktail or have one drink, sure. But I'm not going to sacrifice my nights anymore like that,
Yeah.
You lose a lot.
Yeah, you lose a lot of people when you start to grow, right? Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you gain, right?
You also gain, yeah. And I guess a few things came up for me while I was listening to kind of talk about the dynamics of relationships when you're growing and expanding and learning to set boundaries. And one of the things that came up for me is like how envy, jealousy, or resentment are such a reflection of what we truly want for ourselves, and
Absolutely.
how you can either choose to see that as a sign for yourself to to step into owning, like pursuing that, or you can do what it sounds like you've had to encounter, which is like, I'm now going to be angry towards the person that made me feel this way, right? And I think when we're communicating with people that have seen us evolve and change and they respond in that anger, what I hear too from earlier on in the conversation is, how do we extend the grace to communicate with them in a loving way that helps them, see their own potential without losing ourselves in that process, like setting the boundary, but doing so lovingly and influencing them and role modeling for them to believe that it's possible for them too, right?
Yes.
So how do you do it?
I mean, right now it's just really like, you listen and you hear things like, oh, like, when you do a lot of personal developing and a lot of for so many years, and I hear so many stories from my own clients, it's kind of like you hear it all and you're like, oh wow, I see where they're at. And it's just meeting them there and just like giving them like that little extra hope of like, yeah, right now, unfortunately, this is a really rough space for you. And that's okay. It's just like acknowledging like, yeah, that sucks. And you're not gonna feel great when you leave here. Like you still have that problem in hand, right? But it's also like just giving them a little hope of like, you're going to get through it once you get past this and not staying in there. And, depending where the conversation goes or what they share. And I just kind of bring it back to them in a positive way. Like, yeah, oh my God. Or I'll give an example because depending on people who have met me, especially clients and friends and stuff like that, they're like, oh my God, you were mad. You're so calm. And I'm like, oh my God, I was like a freaking terror. Like, like when it was like a heated thing, not that I was just walking around being crazy, but if we
Yeah.
were having a
When
heated
you were
thing,
triggered.
yeah, it was crazy. Like I was like crazy woman. And you were hear me, you know, but
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I was like, oh God, I remember feeling exactly what you felt. And it sucks. It sucks. Like letting them know, like, that's normal that you feel that way is part of like the human experience. That's what I tell everyone.
Mhm.
The human experience to feel that. And it's just lifting them up, even if it's like,
Yeah.
hey, and I'm really big at following up. So like it's like, hey, like, how are you feeling? I know the last few days you were feeling like I literally even set it on my calendar. I'll be
Yeah.
like, damn, I was sad. Let me hit them off in a few days. Um, it's just giving them hope and like knowing they're not alone. People have gone through this. Like, you're not the first or the last, and you're gonna get through this. You have to really, really think about like you're okay. Like you're not gonna
Yeah.
die.
Well, what I hear is like the influence model that I teach is all about like showing them the other side so that they are inspired by the potential like benefit of going through what they're going through now and taking action now. Like what's on the other side of that they really, really want. And also I hear he's talking about like not everyone's gonna want to meet you there. Like there is value in deeper connection and deeper conversation with people that are going to be like-minded, that are going to want to do the work, that are going to want to discuss with you how, the struggles that they're going through and how they want to overcome them. And it's like, okay, if you are able to meet me here, can I then like influence you to grow? Or eventually, do I recognize that this negative energy is influencing me, right? Like to recognize, when am I moving from being the person that's influencing to being influenced by a person that is unwilling to grow, and to, like you said, like to know that you have a support system is so important, because not when you're surrounded by a lot of people that don't think the same, you start to become influenced by them, right? And so I love when you say, well, that the people that show up for these events think the same. So Tell me about how because you talk about this a lot on your page, like how you were intentional about seeking out your partner, right? Because that it also talks very much to how we need to seek out our employees, right?
Yeah,
How do we seek out the people we want on our team, and what that looks like?
absolutely. I mean, I was, yeah, with my partner when before meeting him, I actually wrote a year before, I think, or more before I met him. I wrote down the list of like, I always wrote lists of everything. Like, this is what I want. Like, this is how I want it and why I want it like this. So I just wrote what I wanted in my future husband. I put my future husband on the title and I put the whole list. And I even still send it to people. People, because they asked me this question and I'm like, oh my God, I could send you the list and then you can write yours. And they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, just write what you want. Like, what do you want? So it was really being intentional about that. One of my best friends was like, I read it out loud to her, and she's like, "Wow, there's not one physical thing on this." I'm like, "Oh my God,
Yeah,
you're right. You're right." Yet, my husband is in amazing shape. Like, he has a six pack. He's like in shape. I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, I didn't even write that, but it's the lifestyle, right? Like what I wrote and what those traits are and would only lead you to that in a sense, right? Like
right.
it's just like, wow, I didn't realize that when I was sharing the list. They were like, wow, you didn't write like tall or football player or, whatever, like whatever they want. And I was like, yeah, no, because I need the person inside. Like, that's who I want. And
Yes.
I'm going to find, I was like, if because a lot of women that I was like hanging out with, entrepreneurs or just colleagues and stuff like that. Oh my God, it's so hard out there. Oh my God, it's so this. And I'm like, really? I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm single at that time and I'm great. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm single and I'm amazing. So I could only imagine that someone else is there just like me and looking for what I'm looking for.
Right.
And the truth, like, if you're single, aren't you great? Like, so you're talking about yourself being in that single sea or whatever. It's like, no, I'm kind of a catch. Like, I'm not that I don't have flaws because I do, but it's like, well, if I'm single and I'm looking for this and this is the kind of person I am, I know God has someone for me. Like, I don't know. I just believed it like in my head.
Yeah.
And then that's what I did. And then I was very intentional about how I was dating. So I actually got on the app, and that was the first time. I was only on it for like 2 to 3 weeks, which is crazy. First it was like match.com, and I was like, okay, you have to get like used to it. It's like, oh my God, this is a lot of work. But someone else was like a week later, they were like, oh, you should try Hinge. And I'm like, okay, what's that and why? She was like very adamant. She was like a client, close friend of mine. And I'm like, and she's not like that. She's like a yogi, very quiet. And she was just, I don't know, I guess God just really made that connection because that's how I met him. So she was like, you're going to like it. It's like, it's different. It's very modern. And I'm like, all right, that sounds cool. And then she even texted me a few days later, hey, did you post it? I was like, no, not yet, because I downloaded the app. I got it. Like, it was just weird that she was so on top of me on it because she's not like that. So it was really strange. I was like, no, I actually have the account. I just haven't had it live because I want to be intentional about how I show up in the page. And she's like, all right, cool. Well, let me know when it goes live. I'm like, okay. So like she wanted me to get it done. And I'm like, okay, that was kind of cool. And so I took
Like
my
holding
time.
you accountable.
Yeah, she was, which was pretty cool. So so that's like perfect because being intentional, I didn't just put it live and then started getting distracted. I said, no, I'm gonna put this picture, and I read into it, like put a profile picture, put one with a smile, no smile, this side, full body, like it's like a whole thing. And when I go and I do something, I do it all the way. Like, I'm not gonna do mediocre work. So it was like, and that's what a lot of people were like, oh yeah, I did my app and I didn't put this. I'm like, all right, well, if you're gonna do basic work, you're gonna get basic results. And that sounds like why you're meeting basic people. And that's what I would tell them. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, so you need to step up because it's basic information. So then that's what I tell them. I was so intentional about what I wrote, how I wrote it. I put every category of what they requested because I want the algorithm to bring me what I'm looking for. Exactly how it was. I went on a few dates, and 2 weeks later, I met my husband. I mean, it's like, oh, but this is good too. Before I met him, I went on a few dates and it was cool. They were fun. On paper, it was great. Like I was like, oh, this is cool, like because it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, which I like because I'm busy and you could
Mhm.
meet at a bar or a restaurant, but you don't know about them because
Mhm.
you're just going by what they look like. Oh, they seem nice, but they can go outside and you're not into smoking and maybe they're smoking. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so I just felt like with the app, and I was new to the app, I've never done this before. I felt like, oh, I could actually put what I don't want and what I
Right.
do. I'm like, this is amazing. How are people not doing this?
Yeah.
Thing is, you have to go and make sure there's chemistry because then people get distracted by, oh my gosh, I didn't really make a connection. Well, you're not going to connect with every person you go on a date with. Only because it looks good on paper doesn't mean that there's chemistry. So I remember going and I would know right away, like, oh, this is not good. It sounds great on paper. Credentials are great. This is what I'm looking for, but there's just no chemistry from my end. But I would still acknowledge the date. It would be like, I had such a great time. Thank you so much. Because it's a human being. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just a moment of like, you know what? Thank you. Like I had a good time because you set your mind to have a good time. But now if you're like, oh, no chemistry, I'm done, like you're checked out, that's when things become, oh, it's so hard out there. Not really. You're just putting in the practice, the training, like any job, right? To the training that you do. It's the same thing with dating. You have to put in the reps, the training, and the practice and the skills because then you're learning from different people. You're learning what you like and what you don't like. You know what I mean? You learn,
Yes.
I rather go out in the morning or I'd rather go out at night. You learn all these things. So this is what I tell everyone. I'm like, just have fun for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
Even if every person you meet is not the person. So then that was it.
So what I love about this is that it so relates to leadership in business too. Because I've had clients, right? And where I've had to talk about like hiring and interviewing like you're dating.
Exactly. It's a real
Because
thing.
because it's like, okay, well, if you're just going to put out a job ad where you put down what you think people would want to do, then you're just going to get a bunch of people that may not actually know what they're getting into, right? So how do you put yourself out there in a
Mhm.
way that represents your values, how you want to feel when they're working for you, how you want them to want to feel, right? Like when you talked about like it doesn't matter what they look like, sometimes you know what? You don't hire just for like hard skills because you have to hire for character. Those are the real reasons people lose their jobs. It's not because, you know, they don't know the skill because they wouldn't be applying to your job if they didn't know the
Exactly.
skill. Like
Absolutely.
it's because they're not teachable, or it's because they're toxic, or because they are, they have a certain value that doesn't align with the company values. And so it's about like putting out there what do you really want and what do you not want, and let the people disqualify themselves, right? Like, oh, you know, that's okay. Like you don't want to hire someone that then, months down the road, they're like all of a sudden showing up as who they are, and you're showing up as who they are, and guess what? It wasn't a fit. Like it's
And then it's a waste of time, just
yeah,
energy.
and now you've trained them, right? And not
The
only
same.
that, like I heard you say, it's like set your mind up to have a good time. When people are interviewing for these jobs, it's like it's not meant to be like, I need the job. I need this to be the job. It's like, okay, go into it with like an open mind. Just like you said, everything is working out for you. And guess what? Maybe it's not the guy that interviewed you. Maybe it's someone that the guy that interviewed you knows, right? Like it's like build a relationship, get curious, decide that you're not only getting interviewed, but you're interviewing them and learning more from this process of interviewing about what you actually want in a job. And like it's so interesting that you said, I'm single and I'm really great because
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how are you going to find your value when you go into that interview so that you don't go into that interview in this like needy place, right?
Exactly.
It's
Huge.
like, find your value. Like, remember who you are.
Yes.
Because just like you said, it's really rough out there finding the right partner. There's not much out there. It's like, the same can be said for the person that's hiring, which I've had people talk just like that about hiring. And I've had clients talk just like that about interviewing. And so a lot of the work people don't recognize when they're feeling stuck is really mindset work, right?
It is.
And I know you do a lot of mindset work because you had a whole series on it, right? Mindset with Lisa or by Lisa, right?
Yeah, which one? I don't know. Mindset with the, I don't remember.
It was like you used to do this whole series about it. And it what I hear you even saying when you talk about your like your school your online courses, it's like most of your work is on the mindset. It is
It,
on the
that's
skills.
the thing. Like when
Yeah.
people come, like, wow, I was just ready to learn a new technique, a new, because like they think that that's what makes me so successful, and I'm like, that's the plus, like knowing what I'm doing with someone's like muscle group, but it's beyond that. It's beyond, you know what I mean? It's beyond the muscle, and they're like,
Yeah.
my God, I'm like, yeah, it's mind blowing, right?
Because just like you said about your husband and his muscles, right? It's not that he has the muscles, it's that he has the work ethic and the willingness to get uncomfortable and the willingness to learn a new skill. Those
Yep.
are the things that lead to the muscle and the success and all of that. And so when we're hiring, it's the same thing. Remember that it's not the skill, it's like, how did they acquire that skill? I, I love how like the two are so similar and yet it seems so like obvious and yet we so often like overlook it.
Always, yeah, it's like it's perfect.
Awesome, Lisa. This has been so fun. I know we're like over time even. I want to honor your time. And just, I loved talking to you today. I loved hearing your insights. Why don't you tell everybody how they can get connected with you and if they are spa owners or even massage therapists, how to learn more from you and just like keep gaining more of your wisdom and knowledge and experiences.
I mean, I'm very active on social media. There's Empowered with Lisa. That's kind of where I intertwine everything, my life, everything I'm doing, business, events, networking, everything on that page. And then that's Empowered with Lisa on Instagram. And then the spa, of course, it's Spa O on the go. And that's there. And that's also the website. So it's, spaoonthego.com. If you want to book a massage, a facial, you could book through there, or corporate chair massages for the office space. Um, you can connect there, and that's where the link is with the Spa O School of Synergy. So if you're a spa owner, or just a sole therapist that wants more like insight on how to be more successful, how to get more bookings, that's where you would find it on the link there, or on the Empowered with Lisa link as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's where I, like, on social media, you'll find everything, and then on a website, you'll be able to see certain things that have to do more only with spa, but everything through social media and then the newsletters and stuff like that. Once,
Yeah, and I love that you highlighted your corporate events too for those business owners that are trying to have a culture of wellness, right? And they want to bring in that aspect right into their corporate space and how you build culture that way. I love
just
that.
like, there's a lot of small businesses too that they're like, they have a small team, and they're like, it's like, office morale, and they love it, and then they love it. They the 15-minute boost. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so nice. It's so beautiful to see, and it's awesome. So
That's great. Thank you so much, Lisa. I hope that we keep in touch, and I can't wait to see all the people's lives that you touch with this new business structure where you're empowering more business owners and therapists. This is awesome.
thank you so much. Let's take a quick little,
Yeah,
I'll
I
take a,
also want to.
I'll just post it on Instagram, and I'll tag you
Oh,
like,
awesome.
hey,
Okay.
Stay tuned for the episodes coming, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, there we go. I'll send it to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Great day.
You too. Let's keep in touch for actually catch up for real at some point.
Oh, well, we will.
Yeah.
It's there.
What?
I said it's getting there, the time frame. We'll get there.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Courage and Purpose. I hope today's insights inspired you to take bold action and align your life and career with what truly matters to you. If you're ready to dive deeper, I invite you to download my free Action Indicator Assessment, a powerful tool to help you uncover what's holding you back and take the next step towards clarity and confidence. Just visit www.lifeonpurpose.coach/action indicator to get started today. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who could use a little extra courage on their journey. Until next time, stay true to your purpose, lead with courage, and keep thriving. I'll see you in the next episode.